How you doing, everybody? Well, this is me, Carpo, Joshua, stepping in front of the camera again. Be attempting to make a video after a week or so. It's almost like you forget how, or I forget how, rather. This is my second attempt, and I got interrupted at first, and I got frustrated, and I thought, it's alright. It's alright. Just try again. And then I asked myself, why? Why do you even want to make a video? You took a while off from YouTube, and so you're going to come back, make another video. Why? And this is a question I've asked myself for the last 3 or 4 years, or however long it's been since I started making these. I have an opinion, or an idea, a thought, something I want to share, a discovery, and I make a video about it. And there have been times when I've made, up to 3-4 videos a day, for weeks on end, and hardly ever take a day off. So last week, I took kind of my annual week off of YouTube, which I'd tried the year before. And during that time, the first couple days were rather normal, but by the third day, I actually got a virus, and it must have been a flu. I didn't get nausea, but I got the rest of the flu symptoms, including a fever, which stayed with me for a couple nights. Hot and cold flashes, not extreme fever, but I was definitely ill, and just an all-around rotten feeling for like 3 or 4 days, which just happened to fall right on the week when I was off of YouTube anyway, which was kind of funny. And I'm really grateful that it fell during that time, actually, because I would have probably made videos anyhow, and probably even griped about being sick and whatnot, but giving myself a whole week perspective to look at, my life, and to look at which things in life are important to me, which things aren't, which things are worth standing up for, which ideas are worth conveying, which ideas are just better set aside and kept to myself. I would have thought that by now I'd look back and say, why do I make videos? Those are all stupid. I'm going to stop doing this. There's something that keeps me doing it, is because of a few people here and there that I've met that will give me such an uplifting, positive feedback from something they heard. I say it might have been just what they needed to hear that day. Now, not in an arrogant way, not to say, yes, I'm telling them the right way to live, and it's not like that at all. It's, to me, rather than saying, aha, I showed this person this, or I taught this person this, I'm like, all right, this person's having a good day too. Think of it as your family. When you're at home, you don't want everybody to be in a good mood just so you can say, I put them in a good mood. You want them to be in a good mood so you can all get along. So you all sacrifice a little bit of yourself for each other, hopefully, to make that family unit stronger and run better. We so easily get caught up in our lives. I mean, if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to live them. If we spend every waking moment worrying about, what might happen, or trying to completely prove whether there's an afterlife, or whether we should have this or could have that, if we couldn't learn to just live our lives and just work towards a goal, have a home, basic needs met, for some reason we often think that we deserve more as humans. And I know that when I was younger, I thought I did. I mean, I thought, well, we live here on Earth, as far as we know, one life as this consciousness, this being, and what am I going to do with this time? Am I going to live with these values that people tell me are important, or am I going to go out and, let's say, steal and rob and plunder and get what I want? Now, only an educated person can look at this and say, well, having more does not mean being happier. And in fact, it makes you more miserable if you're stealing from others. And this is why thieves are very seldom happy people. Now, of course, I'm maybe drawing a conclusion there that, I'm sure that maybe there's a thief out there watching that's like, I'm happy, Well, if you are, then the only thing I can say is that it must be a sociopathic tendency because sociopaths don't feel empathy the same way as other people. And in society, it's between 1% and 4% of the population, depending on which group. CEOs, it's much higher than the general population, but people who can live and try to take more than their share and not feel guilty about it and think that's okay, it's survival of the fittest. And I understand where they're coming from with that, because when you use that mindset from the outside and you're just looking at it, it without really rationalizing what you're, doing, just say that, this is who I am. Well, I don't want to get too far into that side of things. What I was getting at was what brings true happiness and understanding. Do we have to really be important, or do we have to have more? And when you're sick, when you're ill, like when I had, when I was sick the other night, I was having these fever dreams. Everybody's had fever dreams where you're something really fast-paced and crazy going on in your head, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But it's usually related to something you did in the day before. Let's say you fall asleep watching a particular TV show. And when people are sick, when I'm sick, I might marathon watch some show, fall asleep watching it, and you end up having dreams about that show. Well, it's very similar to that when you're sick, the fever dreams. People who have played video games might know that feeling, if you played for a long time. You go out in the world and you start seeing everything as the video game. And I was watching many different shows about space and whatnot, and there was a dream I had where it was so vivid. I went out and flew out to the edge of the universe, to where the very edge of the universe, if you will. Don't ask me to describe it. And everything came to a point. Like you could see space coming. There was like this, it came to a cone right up by my face, and it went out, tapered out. And I could see through the cone the way that it warped the light, like looking through a Coke bottle, as if it was made of glass, but it wasn't glass, it was more of an energy. And I reached out and I grabbed the cone, and I remember feeling it, and it was like grabbing the edge of the entirety of the universe. And the significance in the dream was kind of profound for me, because I had just got done watching a few different shows about the actual size of the universe, and they use that old analogy where they'll, metaphor with the sand, that there's more stars in space, than grains of sand on all the beaches and deserts. In fact, they say that there are more stars than grains of sand in all deserts and beaches in the world. A person could take one child's sandbox worth of sand, spread that sand out, and be amazed that there are that many stars. The significance of so many more is beyond comprehension, so most people just say, oh yeah, it's one of those big numbers, 10 to the 24th or something, and we can't grasp these things, so we have to set back. It was like when the Hubble telescope looked out and it saw how those distant stars aren't really stars, those are entire galaxies. It makes you really wonder and really start to question, does the universe give a shit about you at all? All the things that we want to believe about our own importances, about our own value, about how friendly we are, or what the species is moving towards, or whether or not we have a place in the cosmos. Just like when people say that alien races come to visit us to see how we're doing as humans, and my first thought whenever I hear that is, why would they? Not because they can't, but they call it there's a name for it. The Earth is in a place where they would consider it to be something like on the edge of it's a place that wouldn't be visited. It's like the outskirts. But of course, let's just say theoretically for this story that aliens, intelligent life, exists on any other Earth-like planet or anywhere that it can form and evolves. You can do the math, and you really can't do the math, I guess, but there are billions, trillions, and trillions of possible, different beings that could be out there. So we have to wonder, how much interest are they really going to have in a primal race like us? And we like to think of ourselves as very important. We really do, and I just kind of laugh at it sometimes and think, I'd love to think that we as individuals have something really important to contribute to this universe. But I think that the greatest peace lies in realizing that you're just a flick of dust. That the power to live comes not from thinking you're important, but from realizing that you're the only one who's going to make yourself important, and nobody else is going to do it for you. People want to live humbly, but we all know that many men have died and had to carve their face in stone. Some people have been so obsessed they have to have statues made of them and commemorated, and people like Caesar and Alexander, and they would make themselves like into the likeness of gods because of the way that people revered them. And so we can see through history by watching this, you see that when people are revered and loved as a great, important person, it always goes to their head, almost always. And very few people have been able to humbly live as philosopher kings, let's say. It's like I was reading about Socrates and how he believed that, poetry was the enemy of philosophy in a way, because it told fake stories instead of the truth. And I could see how people get frustrated with that, just like what's going on with today's world. People are getting frustrated about people, quote, wasting their time doing things that people don't think is important, such as, pursuing material interests or building new cities and things while people starve. And it's really hard for people to understand what humans are doing. And growing up into life, growing up in a time of, let's say, the Library of Alexandria, if I were living in 200 BC and I could go out and, they would actually confiscate, they would search any ships that came into the harbor, not for contraband or drugs, but for books. And if a book was found, they would take it to the library. If there wasn't a copy of it already, then it would be confiscated and the person would be reimbursed for the text, because knowledge was so important to them, truth was so important to them. And the more a person seeks this truth about who we are as a whole, the more this image falls away of who we think we really are as a species and as individuals. And once the illusion falls away and we lose the mask, then it's very difficult for a lot of people to handle the fact that, yes, man is corrupt. Sure, men are sinners, men are saints. We are just a very interesting species, but it's the only one we know. It's the only way to compare it. We can anthropomorphize all kinds of gods and deities and aliens, but really humans are, we have our own value system, and we have to ask what they're based on, like regularly question ourselves and what we think is true. So every morning you wake up and say, wait a minute, is what I thought yesterday really valid for today? And that's why the ancient Greek philosophers would be able to sit around and talk about these things until the library was burned several times, because people didn't like that type of knowledge, because it questioned what they already thought they knew. And so I try to pursue my life with that same knowledge, that if I don't open my mind to something new each day and I don't ask myself who I am, then I'm easily getting stuck in who I thought I was. And so when I'm out there in space in my dream and I'm holding the edge of the universe, that picture is burned in my mind, and I'm thinking what it resembled to me is that the vastness of space doesn't give a damn about humanity. And as much as I'd like to think that humans play some integral part in the universal process, we're just a little, just another dust ball. There's not a whole lot to be said about it to me, I guess. This seems like kind of a negative view, especially if a person is very religious or has a view that, that humans are ascending or working towards a new dimensional reality. I think as individuals, there's a possibility that our souls, our energies, do have some sort of a place that they can move up. In other words, this could be a place for us to learn or to develop, or for maybe we're all one consciousness that's developing, but the point is that here on Earth, the destiny is changing constantly. It's not about the Earth or having this Eden or utopia. It's not about any second coming here on this planet, or it's about a constant process of prophets coming and telling people this and that, stories that we already knew about, repeating and repeating and repeating, until we figure out how to, not where we're going, but how to live, just how to live as a species. And only as individuals and educated can we do that. And I can sit and talk about it all day long, but I'm still learning, so I don't really have a whole lot to say on the subject. Because of the fact that every day I'm open and changing my ideas, that I'm not sure. And many people have presented ideas to me that I said, wow, that's amazing. You're right. I thought this way for so long, and now I have to kind of restructure what I think might be true. And that's what really growth is. And this is why places like the Library of Alexandria, such a phenomenal place, over 500,000, books and writings that were more or less lost. I mean, some of them were moved and passed away, and I think the Dead Sea Scrolls, if I'm not mistaken, were part of that. But many of these old teachings, many of these old ideas were written down, and it was very difficult to write back then, but they were written down for the purpose of hopefully future generations not making the same mistakes that they made. And when future generations would come across these writings and this knowledge, they would burn it out of fear, because it may tell them what they believe to be true already, or they already know. In other words, how dare you tell me the truth? And we see these repeating patterns. I don't know. I guess I better go, because I'm just going to, from this point on, I'll probably end up just rambling about something else. But I just wanted to touch base with everybody and say, hey. And yeah, being sick really puts things in perspective. Really does. And it makes you understand a little bit more about, what I as an individual find to be important, I guess, which is obviously, to me, it's about family and friends, and wisdom and knowledge are a great pursuit, but they're fleeting. Love is not fleeting, I guess it is, but true love endures, it's timeless, So I'll talk to you all soon, and have a wonderful